Okay, so I guess a little background on the story first of all is I'm on swim team. Pema is also on swim team. Neither of us really like going to the meets, and Pema has a history of not showing up to the meets a lot of the time, and I will be there by myself. So anyways, we had a meet last winter at the CCBA, which is in West Lebanon, so it's pretty close. And I was like, okay, we're going to this meet, like you are coming, we're going to do all our, whatever we're signed up for, all the events, and then we can leave and that's fine. You're not ditching me this time. And so I was with her all afternoon, she drove with me, she gets in the car, we get to the swim meet, and the first thing is we get in the locker room, and we're changing, and she goes, I feel sick. And I was like, no, like you're not, you pulled this excuse so many times, like, I have Advil, like take my Advil, like you're fine. And she's like, okay. And we're still changing, and she goes, I forgot my bathing suit. And I was like, no, like that's so not valid. And she was like, no, like I don't have it. And I was like, okay, well I have an extra one, so I gave it to her. And then we go into the meet, and we're about to get in, like we're going to warm up in our lanes, and she leaves, and then she comes back and she goes, I haven't paid my money. Like I'm not part of swim team, I can't do this anymore. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I went and I did my laps, and the meet started, and I was signed up for the 200, which really sucks. It's like, you go fast, it's like 8 laps or something. I get out, I'm really tired, I'm holding my swim cap. She comes up to me and she goes, I have something to tell you. And I was like, what? And she goes, the check has been in my bag this entire time. And I was like, oh my god, like, I hate you. And so I take my swim cap and I start hitting her really hard with the swim cap, but like not really hard. And like, she was laughing and I was laughing and it was all fine. And then she runs away. And she comes back and she goes, that man wants to talk to you. And I was like, what? And she goes, no. And she was laughing, so I was like, okay, you're kidding, obviously. She was like, no, he wants to talk to you. And I kept hitting her with the swim cap because it seemed like she was kidding and the man didn't actually want to talk to me. And she goes, no, look at him. And I look over, and there's this man, and he's like this big. He like has a little headset around his neck, and he's like, his ankles, like huge white sneakers, like he's really gigantic. Okay, and she was like, no, I'm serious. And I was like, oh god. And then I see him back into my coach. I was like, oh shit, like I have to get there before he talks to my coach. So I start sprinting around the pool, and I like book it around, I'm like pushing past people, and I get there, and he's in the middle of like yelling at my coach for how irresponsible our team is, and then he looks at me and he goes, you. What? And he goes, I want to kick you out of this swim meet. And I was like, oh my god, like, I'm so sorry, like, I thought she was joking. He was like, you ignored me, you were acting immaturely, like, you're acting like a 7-year-old boy, like, how old are you? I was like, I don't know, like, I'm 18. He's like, you're acting like a first grader. Yeah, and that's when I almost got kicked out of swimming.
Well, that was fun, but it was also 2 minutes and 41 seconds.
How would you say yes?
Wait, am I gonna get a lot of points off for that?
She told a great story.
I mean, it's part of it, but it's not huge. Okay. Rebecca is on here. Lucy.
Okay. It's on the timer.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you the story about how I couldn't think of a story to tell you people. So when we got the assignment, I thought like, okay, I got this in the bag. Like, I'm a pretty funny person. I do funny things. This will be great. And then like throughout the week, I've been like trying to think of something to say, and I realized like, no, I'm really boring. Like, I am so boring. I never do anything. Like, pretty much all I did last week, like the entire week, I just watched Mad Men every single day. And that's like my whole life pretty much. Like, yeah, like, I mean, so this is probably my least favorite assignment, I think, because it made me realize what a not fun person I am. Because I've always thought I was like really funny and like, you know, like, oh, you know, I'm so wacky, I do crazy things, like, woo, watch out. But looking back on it, I'm not nearly as exciting of a person as I thought I was. And so that's my story. There you go.
Okay, 119. Jenny.
Okay, so when I was in 7th grade, I decided that I wanted to be a veterinarian.
So when my mom and I brought my cat to the vet, I asked them if I could shadow one of the doctors. They said, sure. So then for the next 4.5 years, I got to do that. And then something that has stuck with me the most is the euthanasias. Since you'd always know when one was scheduled for the day because there'd be a fresh bouquet of flowers on the countertop, then there'd be certain technicians who'd be like kind of teary-eyed. Even after doing this for years, still got them. And then the ones in the winter were the worst because the ground was solid and the people who wanted to bury their pets would have to wait until spring, so they'd ask the vet clinic to store the pet for them. And then the first time that I was there for one of the euthanasias, I didn't really know what was going on because I didn't understand what the medication was supposed to do. So there's this dog and they were injecting something, and then the breathing slowly stopped, and then its tongue sort of came out to the side. And then once I learned that the dog was dead, they didn't have enough technicians to help bring it out to the back and into the freezer. So they're like, would you mind helping us? And so with this black, your average trash bag, I, with another technician, had to help shift this dog into it. And you don't want to just shove a dead dog into a bag because it seems sort of barbaric. So once we got the dog into the bag and we have the tag on, we had to lift it up and bring it to the freezer in the back. But it's really difficult to bring a dog in a bag to the freezer because it's slipping. And one doesn't lift the head too. Oh my goodness. It's really difficult. So then once we finally got it back to the freezer, you open the freezer door and you do not realize how many dead animals there are in the freezer. Some unknown aspects of the wet.
201. All right. Oh my gosh. Pema! See if this is the rebuttal to the swim team story.
Alright, so before I tell this story, let's put this into the perspective of a 4th grader. Alright, I just want to let you guys know that. I'm 4th grade. Okay, so basically, there's a lot to the story. What happens is, I'm 4th grade, I don't really know what's happening with myself. I'm playing with my dog, next thing I know she nips me, blood is shed, streaming down my fingers. I was like, oh god, my dog's scheduled for a vaccination for rabies in a month, she's due, she has rabies in her. So I started going on there and I was like, never what you want to do when you start freaking out. I'm just scrolling through all these different articles. My brother's in the other room. I started as I'm reading on and seeing all these different things about rabies and how they can affect you, I'm just tears are streaming down my face. I'm freaking out. So I think this is the end of my life. At one point I'm laying down in my parents' bedroom with my dog, laying beside her, looking at her in the eyes, not even mad at this point, just sad that I think my life is over. I'm actually, I cannot convince you. I cannot tell you how convinced I was that I was going to die. I literally was so sad. So I go and I was like, alright, I'm reading through and I see there's one test of figuring out if you actually have rabies. And it is to, apparently, I guess when you have rabies in you and you see running water, you start foaming from the mouth. I was like, alright, this is what I have to do. I have to run this test. I get my brother to tie me down in this wooden chair with my jump rope, and I have him hold on to a sharp scissor ready to stab me if I lunge at him. Alright, just tie me down. This is gonna happen. I was like, alright, run the water. And at this point I'm like, alright, we're calling the ambulance just in case anything gets wild. I call my mom first, just double check something with the child. Mom, I think I have rabies. Can I call the ambulance? She's like, yeah. Call the ambulance. The ambulance is on their way. So my brother turns on the water. I literally think I'm about to die. And I'm here waiting, and he turns on the water, and everything is fine. So, later that day, my mom comes home, we have dinner, everything's fine, I've calmed down, relaxed, done that with my tears. When we leave to go to the restaurant, passing us is the ambulance. Saying we get a call from Basically, the lesson of the story is don't jump to conclusions, and when you're freaking out, do not read the internet. Do not check WebMD.
All right.